Hello, my name is Paul Stewart and I'm at Sydney International Airport, and later this afternoon I'm flying to Fiji with Fiji Airlines in their business class. Now they've just bought two A350s which everyone's very excited about, but they've already got a few A330s, so I was curious to see what their business class is like in that. So coming up is my review of their A330 business from Sydney through to Nadi, which I've just found out is pronounced Nadi.
The journey begins by checking in and dropping off my bags via the premium section, which is now also open to One World status passengers as well as Fiji's own loyalty program and of course business passengers. That was all over pretty quickly, and then I was off through customs via the express path. Now I usually don't find that it's much faster than the standard pathway, but today it looked like we were able to skip some pretty large queues. Once through customs, it was off to the lounge, which Fiji contract off to Qantas. Once you're up the escalators, it's the first class lounge on the left, but you have to keep turning around to get to the business class lounge. Now it's one of the older international business lounges in the Qantas network, and to be honest, it is showing its age. On the right now is a barista which makes drinks to order, and there's also this long table where plates of the days are offered. Unfortunately, the breakfast one had ended at 8:30, and then the lunch one wasn't until 12:30, so I had to make do with the standard buffet, which was okay. By the way, GoPro released an update while I was actually there in the lounge, so the rest of my footage won't be filmed with this wide and distorting fisheye lens, which was really good timing. I've just bought a new GoPro which I think works pretty well, so I'd love to hear feedback, and I still do use my Fujifilm for zooming shots. I had a bit of a snack and attempted to appreciate the views. Next up, I checked out the showers, which as I've said before are always a huge perk of business class, especially during long layovers. And here's a close-up of the soap, as people always seem to ask what it was. I needed another coffee, so I took off to one of the Priority Pass bars, as they don't actually have their own dedicated lounges at Sydney International, and found this very tasty espresso-ish. After that, I took off to the gate to catch our aircraft arriving. Fiji Airlines have a few Airbus A330s in their long-haul fleet, although this is their only longer -300 model. It's a perfectly good aircraft, and Fiji Airlines are also very excited about adding two brand new A350-900s to their fleet. In fact, I've already flown in that brand new A350, and a link to that video will be in the video description below. Boarding was called, and we had a very friendly Fijian welcome. On the left, there is a small economy class cabin, and then it's into business class, which has these 4 rows of seats in a 2-2-2 layout, and here's mine, 4K. I'll show you around the seat in a little more detail, beginning with the storage spot for the in-flight magazines and headphones and 2 bottle holders, and then there's even more storage spots under the armrest. In front of you is this TV screen, which I'll comment on later, and then there's these 2 enclosed storage spots. Now just be aware that you do need to slide these little duvelakis across before you can actually open them up. Inside the armrest is a fold-out table, which felt pretty sturdy, and hidden under those is the universal power plug and a USB port. While the open seat design is less private than the newer suites, there is at least this little barrier, although I'm afraid watching Game of Thrones will still be a little bit uncomfortable for your neighbour. Hidden on the other armrest are the seat adjustment buttons, and then there's also the entertainment remote controller. Unfortunately, there are no individual overhead air vents, unlike in the new A350 which has them, although at least you also get a great view of the wing and engines. A cool towel was brought around, as well as an offer of water, mocktails or champagne. The noise cancelling headphones seemed to be of reasonable quality, and eventually we took off to the runway to escape this miserable weather in Sydney.
But thank you very much. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy Fiji time.
Thankfully the weather was perfect in Fiji for my entire trip, so keep your eyes out for some beautiful views coming up very shortly and in my other videos. After takeoff, I reclined my seat and extended the privacy barrier, which in all seriousness is one of the better ones in these kinds of 222 seat layouts. A round of drinks was offered and I went for this local rum, which I've since found out was 58% alcohol, which explained a few things, and some nibbles. That was followed up by this New Zealand Sauv Blanc and some salad and garlic bread. For the main, I went with this roasted chicken breast, which tasted fine, although I must admit the presentation was probably a little average. This was followed up by a top up of the Sauv Blanc and a dessert, which was this very tasty cream tart. After lunch, I explored the in-flight entertainment. Unfortunately, the screen doesn't respond to touch, so you have to use remote control, which is quite a unique experience as I haven't actually had to use these remotes for quite a while. The screen quality was fine, although the content, to be honest, was fairly limited, so I'd probably load a few videos onto my own device if I was travelling long haul. There were a few TV series, although unfortunately there were only 2 episodes per series, so that's not amazing. Having said that, the in-flight entertainment out of the window was particularly amazing, as we flew away from a setting sun behind us. I had a cup of chamomile tea and a bit of a snooze in these seats, which don't go completely flat, but rather on a bit of an angle. The Dennis Bunnick headspace while seat is flat test was adequate, and I had a bit of a squiz out the window again. Now you'd be really surprised by the number of messages and emails I get almost every day asking, Paul, what is the toilet like on a Fiji Airways Airbus A330-300? Well, here it is. Once I got back to my seat, we were crossing over Fiji's coastline, and even though it was getting a little dark, the views were pretty impressive. As we come into land, I'll comment on a few other things, and I'll also be uploading the full landing footage in another longer video and include a link to that below. Unfortunately, there was no Wi-Fi and no amenity kits provided, which is a bit of a pity as I'd like to make a habit of giving them away to a subscriber. I did see during another review that they did collect their headphones prior to landing, although on this flight they did specifically say that if we were still watching something, we could keep them until we landed. Now I know a few other airlines do collect them, so you're actually stuck without in-flight entertainment for the last 30 minutes of the flight, and I reckon that's a really cheap thing to do. If they're that worried about theft, maybe they should just keep everyone on board until they've collected them once you've landed. Anyway, thankfully that wasn't an issue on this flight and we were able to hold on to them. So how was the flight overall? Look, it was perfectly fine. The seat itself, to be honest, is showing its age, and I was lucky enough to have no neighbour, so I didn't have to step over anyone to get to the aisle, although that could potentially be an issue if you did have a neighbour and you're not particularly agile and they put their seats down flat. The food and drink was fine, although just be aware that the rum is stronger than most other rums I've tried, and the service was also really friendly too. Most other airlines, including Qantas, Virgin and even Fiji themselves, also fly narrow-body 737s on this route, and my biggest tip would be to fly on the wider A330s and A350s if you can, as they're always more comfortable and smoother than the smaller jets. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're into these kinds of videos, please check out my YouTube channel. I've already uploaded my video on board the brand new Fiji A350, and I've also got 2 flights within Fiji on board an ATR 72 and a Twin Otter, so keep an eye out for those on my channel. Thanks for watching, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you another time. And finally, just keep your eyes peeled for our greeting into Fiji, and I'll end with the menus.